Not only tonight, but certainly going to be tomorrow morning. It's expected that Angelo Agrizzi is going to implicate a sitting minister in his testimony at the Zondo Commission this week. Now, to remind you, Agrizzi is set to resume testimony tomorrow. It will be the fourth day of evidence from the former chief operating officer of Bosasa. Erin Bates joining me now. You've been, excuse me, Erin, you've been following the commission, especially what has been said over the past few days. It's like a soap opera. You do not want to tune out because you have no idea what next is going to come from Agrizzi.
Yeah, soap opera or a drama. You know, I've heard people compare it to the likes of Narcos and The Sopranos. We really are getting the inner workings of a company that's accused of laundering money, of bribery, of corruption and fraud. And Agrizzi did present that alarming video where you actually see the CEO of what was Bosasa counting out wads of cash up to R1 million.
When we saw the video footage as well, they'd gone through the minutiae of this as well. There was the R1 million. I know you put it on your social media account on Twitter as well. You can follow Erin, by the way. If you haven't had a chance to follow her this week, it's at Erin Bates on Twitter for live updates. And you put out a photo, and you had to actually circle what was this R1 million, this wad of R1 million on this desk. What did Agrizzi say when I think it was even the commission chair asking how he knew that was R1 million, and how did he know it was real? But he was absolutely certain.
He's adamant that that was normal protocol at Bosasa. In that video, in that moment, we are inside the walk-in vault of Gavin Watson, the CEO of the company now called African Global Operations. And Agrizzi is adamant that money was to be packed up into grey security bags and then ferried around to reach government officials, people working at AXA and the like. Also a union boss implicated in leaking information on Sasol tenders or bids for a Sasol tender to Bosasa so they could then make the winning bid. And you talk there, Gareth, about me circling it on social media. That's because the quality is quite poor, and that's because it comes from a cell phone that was in the pocket of Andries van Tonder, the CFO of what was then Bosasa. And it sounds like, on the evidence we heard on Friday, that Agrizzi is actually the kind of ringleader of a collection of whistleblowers at Bosasa who are set to provide statements and probably oral evidence before Zondo.
People this week coming out to say that he's actually implicated himself. He's almost put his own head on the chopping block. Is that a fair assessment?
Not almost. He has. He's put his head on the chopping block, as it were. But we understand through some of the reporting of News 24's Kyle Cowan and others that it sounds as though he's busy negotiating a Section 24 witness agreement. So if there is any prosecution stemming from his evidence before the commission, he will gain a kind of immunity from any sort of prosecution or sentence, much like Glenn Agliotti did as well. And so there you're hearing about someone who is really blowing things open, making no question of the fact that he was involved in moving money around and also counting out these bribes.
We're going to talk about the one moment where Agrizzi was asked to name the political party. The rebuttal was, do I need to say the name? We're going to talk about that in a moment. Before we get there, I understand we need to talk about a particular issue here regarding a former Northwest ANC secretary. It's part of the coverage that you've been doing. We're going to play it for you in a moment, Erin. Just tell me about what this is about before we press play.
Well, this is really one of the crux moments in Agrizzi's testimony so far, because it's the first time he openly, although coyly, implicates the ANC and officials of the ANC in benefiting from this laundered money. And here he's talking about an agreement between correctional services in the Northwest Province and Bosasa, and how on his allegation they laundered money which he understood to be intended for electioneering purposes. And so there you have it squarely from Agrizzi that the governing party in that province and an MEC for that governing party, although he did not stipulate exactly who it was, which is problematic, was candid about the fact that they were going to take this money from correctional services, wash it through the Bosasa money laundering system, and then use it for electioneering purposes.
All right, let's take a listen to this.
Monopoly money, R6 million in a walk-in vault, and mounting allegations.
Monopoly money because it's just playing money. You're playing with people.
If you think scenes like this are the height of Angelo Agrizzi's self-proclaimed whistleblowing, think again. From Monday, CEO Gavin Watson's former right-hand man's expected to implicate political heavyweights. Already, Agrizzi's testified an MEC in the Northwest used laundered money for electioneering.
And what is the political party?
I wouldn't. Do I have to say, Chair?
What is your answer to my question?
My answer to your question is it's the ruling party.
Auditor Pete Fenter states Watson instructed him to pay hundreds of thousands into a trust account linked to the president's son, Andile Ramaphosa. Inquiry legal team head advocate Paul Pretorius referred to Fenter's statement on Friday.
2.5 million rand was for the purchase of Ms. Gou's residential property and 500,000 rand to EFG2, the figure 2, with an ABSA bank account. I was merely told it was for a foundation trust of Andile Ramaphosa, the son of the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. I found this strange but wouldn't dare question Gavin Watson.
Here's what the spokesperson for the company known now as African Global Operations told ENCA in November.
We did not donate 500,000 to the campaign of the president. And that is the narrative that is out there to say African Global donated. Gavin Watson donated. Why he donated is an issue between him and whoever requested him.
In 3 days, Agrizzi has detailed what he deems gross corruption, fraud and money laundering at his old company. He's implicated himself and colleagues. Also, former Post Office CEO Madla Mantashe, union boss Simon Mofokeng and former Correctional Services CFO Patrick Gillingham. The Sunday Times predicts Agrizzi will soon detail Christmas gifts to Environmental Affairs Minister Nomvula Mokonyane.
As per our constitutional mandate.
They allegedly include whiskey, cases of beer, frozen chicken and beef. Agrizzi is also expected to detail a hotel meeting with Watson and former SAA chair Dudu Myeni. It's alleged Myeni showed confidential NPA papers to the men. African Global Operations has previously defended its ties to senior ANC members.
Some of these are long-standing relationships that we've had with people before they even became ministers. The reality of it is that those donations or installations had no direct effect. We did not install for us to get business.
City Press reports Papa Leshabane has dismissed Agrizzi as a plain liar, saying there are no grounds for prosecution. The former Bosasa COO, now under witness protection, returns to the stand on Monday.
So help me God.
Erin Bates, Johannesburg.
So that's my colleague Erin Bates having done that story in the build-up to what we were expecting to see is going to be even more explosive testimony tomorrow. Erin, still with us. Why do I care about the name Pete Fenter?
Well, Pete Fenter's statement was brought up on Friday, and that's when we heard again about Andile Ramaphosa and this 500,000 rand, which Bosasa officials and now African Global officials are insistent was from Watson to Andile Ramaphosa's trust account with ABSA, not through the company. That's their version of events. Now, Fenter's statement is critical because Advocate Paul Pretorius has put it to Agrizzi to try and corroborate some of what's in it and also get Agrizzi's version of things. Agrizzi was actually quite reluctant to discuss the Andile Ramaphosa matter in too much detail. But Pete Fenter is important because he just shows you as one of the pawns on the kind of Bosasa chessboard what happens in terms of people who were with government and then kind of turncoat and move over to the private sector and then become aides to the whole Bosasa plot. And Pete Fenter was someone who was working inside SARS. That's how he met some of the people with Bosasa. He then decided to leave government service, move into the private sector, and then again on his statement approached Bosasa officials to say, let me come and work for you. I can help you with tax work, tax returns and the like. And through that, he ended up doing not only work for Bosasa, but work for Gavin Watson, work for Gavin Watson's children, a whole slew of services that were actually beyond the kind of perimeters of his work at Bosasa and for Bosasa.
So if we stay with the analogy of a chessboard, Erin, explain to me if so far we've been watching the pawns being put into place as far as this inquiry and this commission goes, where would Dakota Leguete be on the chessboard? Are we any closer to the king taking the queen? Are we any closer to a checkmate?
We're not very close to checkmate at this point, but you're right to bring him up because he's provided some comment. I would say, to use the analogy, he's off the board at this point. He's no longer serving with the ANC in the Northwest in the capacity he had previously served, but he has provided some insight into where the provincial sort of structures of the ANC are on this whole allegation over the MEC. Let's just have a look.
A secretary is a chief political administrator responsible for implementing decisions, resolutions, and policy positions of the ANC. The Secretary does not deal with assets, donations, income, or revenue that the organization deals with. I think it's a matter that can be established with the Northwest Provincial Task Team for them to check the books whether such a donation ever came from Bosasa. But I think, in my understanding, if it was a donation, there can't be anything wrong with a donation that is donated by a private business to a political party, because so far we do not have a law that denies political parties to receive donations from private establishment, unless in a case where there is something unethical or improper that happened in that particular instance. So far, there's nothing from my side in particular, as a former provincial secretary, that I can say related to the books.
You may have just seen on the left-hand side of your screen there a moment ago the glasses of a man very well known to local and perhaps even international politics, that of Zizi Kodwa. He's now the ANC acting spokesperson, Erin Bates, as we continue to look at the Zondo Commission and the various players implicated in this. The ANC say it's fine, it's not going to affect us. Is that true?
Well, I suppose we'll have to see what comes out of the election later this year. But certainly, I mean, the ANC is taking a pummeling on the testimony of Angelo Agrizzi. What's critical is that it hasn't been contested at this point, although we do have some comment from Nomvula Mokonyane's spokesperson in the Sunday papers with regards to allegations that she's one of the political heavyweights who will be named next week. And this over alleged Christmas presents, including, cans of beer, if not bottles, kilograms of meat, beef and chicken, also getting cool drinks for a family Christmas party. And this on the Sunday reporting back to 2002. But Zizi Kodwa was at some of Agrizzi's testimony this past week, and he has been at some of the inquiry hearings last year, stating quite clearly that the ANC is fully behind the process, but they're not going to give running commentary on each and every allegation that senior members of the party face. But our colleague Samkele Maseko in Irene and Pretoria this afternoon to hear from Zizi Kodwa and the like, and he did in fact get some comment on the whole Zondo Commission.
If you look since the Nazareth conference, the positive optimism and the confidence that people continue to have and the support on the ANC, they are beginning to appreciate that the ANC correctly is correcting itself. So if there are people who may have issues about the African National Congress, correctly their own organization.
From within the organization?
From within the organization. Okay. So we must continue to explain to our people those difficult situations we find ourselves. The trainers, we train our volunteers on these difficult questions. Some of the difficult questions may not be on the list of questions that we anticipate, but we are prepared to answer difficult questions because we're an organization of the people, including the past period where we come from, which has committed a lot of difficulty, not only to the ANC, but to the public. And we are prepared as the African National Congress. But we are very happy that the enthusiasm we have seen successfully over the last weekend, for example, in Durban, for us does indicate that people continue to have overwhelming confidence to the African National Congress, notwithstanding that there are issues that internally that we still need to do to restore confidence and trust of our people.
So the fact that Angelo Agrizzi finds himself in witness protection just goes to show how important and how dangerous the testimony is that he's been providing over the past few days. And I imagine, as you're about to tell me, I'm sure, that this week is going to get even more heated. An implication of is it a sitting minister, what we're looking at?
Yes, the Environmental Affairs Minister, Nomvula Mokonyane, who we saw actually in the headlines this evening looking quite relaxed and comfortable in Irene. She stands accused on the Sunday Times reportage of receiving those gifts I spoke about over Christmas, or Christmases, I should say. She and her spokesperson have said that they're not aware of these allegations because, of course, they haven't been put forth by Agrizzi yet in oral form. They are in the written statement, as we understand it. But also, Dudu Myeni, we're expecting to get more details on a meeting that allegedly took place between her, Watson and Agrizzi in a Pretoria hotel, during which Agrizzi sort of took photographs of these confidential NPA documents. And they've been able to confirm that. This is the inquiry investigators, because they matched the carpet seen in those photographs with the carpet at this hotel. And with the Dudu Myeni matter, the allegation from the Sunday papers based on Agrizzi's statement is that money that was kind of pushed through her hands hands, made its way into the Jacob Zuma Foundation. So that seems to be the flow of the finances. But Gareth, I think what's so critical as we go into this new week where things are really going to ramp up and escalate in terms of Agrizzi's implications is that the whole point of money laundering is that there isn't a direct line between me, perhaps, as the giver of laundered money and you as the receiver. The whole point is to obfuscate. And so when we look at these financial statements and we look at the financial flows, it's important to understand that while there may be a very clear giver and receiver, the whole process in between is meant to be foggied. That's how money laundering works.
And I'm so excited and so thrilled that it's you that has to make sense of all of this, and I just get to find out from you every evening what's happened. At Erin Bates is the Twitter handle that you need to be following this week. Erin Bates, thank you very much indeed. That Commission of Inquiry continuing tomorrow will, of course, be live here on ENCA come Monday.